Hello, astrobaddies and daddies. This is Astrology, the podcast for the witchy and the bitchy. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Luini.
And today, guys, we have Maryaam joining us, aka ShawtyAstrology. She is an astrologer who has been featured in Vogue, Elle magazine, and even Forbes, just to name a few. And she's also known for her astrology content. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super grateful to be here and excited to chat.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? And can you also tell us and our listeners your big three?
Yes, absolutely. So, hi everyone. My name is Maryaam, also known as ShawtyAstrology, and I'm a celebrity astrologer from Toronto. I have a ferocious passion for astrology and all things spiritual, and yeah, I've just been on this journey of helping people to navigate their lives more effectively and efficiently through the lens of astrology. And it's something that I feel so grateful and just so empowered to do on a consistent basis every single day. So, yeah. With that being said, though, I'm a Western tropical astrologer. So I specialize in integrating, astrology practices from that particular system. However, though, I'm definitely open to other systems of astrology. I think sidereal astrology is fantastic, along with Vedic astrology. That's actually where I got my footing initiated from. I started learning about astrology more meticulously through the lens of Vedic astrology. And then I kind of diverted and found my own path, but I still reference it. I still, look at it. I'm still, immersed in it. And I think, astrology is beautiful, irrespective of whatever system that you choose to partake in. I think it's just all incredible for everyone to learn about. But in terms of my big three, so I'm a Capricorn rising with a Gemini sun and a Scorpio moon. So people tend to get pretty surprised when I tell them I'm a Capricorn rising. A lot of people assume that I'm either an Aquarius rising, a Pisces rising, or a Gemini rising, or a Leo rising. So the Capricorn rising, sometimes surprises people. I think it's because I'm just a very colorful person. And so they kind of assume because of like my colorful vibe and aesthetic that, I would kind of have those rising signs. But this is why I'm really excited for us to chat this morning because having planets in the first house can also influence a lot about your aura and the way that you come across. So there's that. But yeah, those are my big three placements. What are your big three placements?
Ooh, okay. So I'm gonna go first. I am a Cap rising, Aries sun, and a Cap moon.
Love it. Wow, twinsies.
Yes.
And I am a Taurus sun with a Pisces rising and Aquarius moon.
Nice.
You having a Cap rising, I'm shook at. Now I can't wait to get into that first house because I definitely, probably because of the hair, pegged you as a Leo rising. I was like, Leo or Aquarius, it could go either way.
No, yeah. I totally thought Leo rising too. Yeah, so definitely when you said Capricorn rising, I said, girl, where? Like I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's because my chart ruler Saturn is in my third house. If I had, for example, Saturn in my first house, I feel like I would exhibit more of those traditional Saturnian traits. I do see it though in terms of like my bone structure, but I do, for the most part, my Capricorn rising energy manifests mentally. Like I'm a complete workaholic. Anytime that I'm not working, I feel off balance. Like you know, I don't know. I'm kind of one of those people that finds comfort in just doing as much as I can and just like staying on top of things. So it's definitely like more of like an internal type of energy that I feel. But yeah, my first house it's pretty jam packed. So that's why people don't assume the Capricorn rising.
See, Nicole is a very stereotypical Cap rising, and it probably is because she has Saturn in her first house, so she's the very, like, put together, structured silhouettes, all black everything, very on brand.
Yeah, exactly. You described me to a T.
I love it. I love it. It's pretty funny because my brand is so intertwined with color. I like to make jokes with my friends, and I'm like, one day I'm just gonna do an all black era and just like shock everybody, because I've just been like, colorful for a very long time. So I'm like, I'm gonna like tap into my Capricorn rising roots and just go all neutral and have a neutral phase one of these days. So yeah, I respect it. I think that there's a beauty in connecting with that side of that Saturnian energy.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see your all black phase because I have been a follower of your content for a while, so I have seen all your color phases. So, so I'm curious to see.
I love it. Thank you.
So, in case you guys haven't picked up on it yet, we are going to be talking about the Ascendant today, but we're going to delve a little bit deeper than what we've discussed previously on the podcast, which was a very surface level take on the Ascendant, where we kind of just talked about how the Ascendant makes you appear to the world, how you look, essentially, and not so much what the energy of the Ascendant brings to your birth chart overall.
Mm-hmm.
We're also going to be talking about the Ascendant ruler, which is something that Maryaam already mentioned.
Yeah, the Ascendant is always fun to get into. It's one of the first things that we kind of learn about when we're entering like the astrology territory. We kind of discover that we're more than one sign. First, we're like, oh my God, I have a birth chart. But before you get into that, you're like, wait, I have a rising sign and a moon. Like, what the hell is that? Also, too, it's just funny because the Ascendant has always been kind of known as like the mask, but I feel like that term is a little outdated because, like you were mentioning with like your chart ruler, like your Ascendant is such a huge part of your personality and how you enter and move about the world. And there are a lot of astrologers now who are just like, your Ascendant runs shit. It runs your shit, and it really does shape your experience in this lifetime. And the conversation has kind of shifted from like the Ascendant being the mask to people being like, actually, no, this is actually a really important part of your personality. So I relate a lot to my Ascendant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a good way to describe it. And, I feel like the rising sign also, it dictates a lot about your life path journey, because it's the first area of the chart. It's the initiation of your own, spiritual energy, your physical body, the way that you exert yourself. Like there's so much, that relates towards yourself in relation to the rising sign and the ascendant. Very, very important part of the chart.
Anyway, back to scheduled programming. We are going to get into the bottle of wine that we're going to be drinking today. And just a heads up, guys, we are recording early in the morning. And, Nicole and I, as is customary, did not eat anything before this episode. So we decided to cheat a little bit. And we're still going to be drinking a wine, but it's a little bit of a hybrid, so Nicole will give you all of the information about that. Yeah, so sorry, spoiler alert, you're not going to get us drunk in here today.
Not this early, sorry. So yes, we're drinking a red sparkling wine. This is from the Traynor family vineyard. This is called their Ophelia, and it's a Piquette. Have you ever had a Piquette wine before?
I have, but I didn't even know that's what it was called.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like a red sparkling wine. This one, like when he said, has a lower alcohol content, and they also added some local apple cider into this wine instead of straight rainwater. So this is supposed to reduce the amount of sugar and acid added to the blend, and then this is going to make this wine a little bit more concentrated. It also has aromas of strawberry and apple cider. Oh my God, like those flavors are so good. The palate's supposed to be light and fresh with a strawberry rhubarb finish. So a lot of reviews did say that they felt like this tasted like a strawberry apple cider, which I'm not mad about. This sounds great. But this is like a really big blend. The grapes that they used are Cabernet Franc, we have Merlot, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Riesling, Syrah, Marquette. Like, there's a lot happening. But she's fun, she's cute, she's different, and she's pink. So.
Which is also Maryaam's current aesthetic.
Yes.
So I feel like it's very on brand for this episode.
I love it. Everything's on brand. I love it so much.
So yes, we're drinking a red sparkling wine. This is from the Traynor family vineyard. This is called their Ophelia, and it's a Piquette. Have you ever had a Piquette wine before?
I have, but I didn't even know that's what it was called.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like a red sparkling wine. This one, like Winnie said, has a lower alcohol content, and they also added some local apple cider into this wine instead of straight rainwater. So this is supposed to reduce the amount of sugar and acid added to the blend, and then this is going to make this wine a little bit more concentrated. It also has aromas of strawberry and apple cider. Oh my god, like those flavors are so good. The palate's supposed to be light and fresh with a strawberry rhubarb finish. So a lot of reviews did say that they felt like this tasted like a strawberry apple cider, which I'm not mad about. It sounds great. But this is like a really big blend. The grapes that they used are Cabernet Franc, we have Merlot, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Riesling, Syrah, Marquette. Like, there's a lot happening. But she's fun, she's cute, she's different, and she's pink. So
Which is also Maryaam's current aesthetic.
Yes.
So I feel like it's very on brand for this episode.
yes, girl, totally matches.
Sounds delicious, by the way. My gosh. I have to check that out at some point.
This one you can actually pick up at the LCBO in the VQA section. So this is probably the most accessible wine that we've had on the show this season thus far, because we've been buying from smaller shops around the city. Ophelia is in the LCBO, so you can pop by there anytime. And it's obviously more, from the notes, it's more of a summer wine.
yeah.
But I don't ascribe to things and flavors having seasons. Just drink whatever you want whenever.
Yeah, absolutely. If it tastes good, it tastes good.
Love it.
Maryam, what wine do you like to drink? Like, what's your favorite wine? Are you a wine drinker, though?
Okay, so I used to be a really big fan of red wine. And fun fact, in astrology, there are asteroids that have very hyper-specific meanings. And so there's actually asteroids named after foods because they use that to be able to track the economic scale or the economic, implications or news based off of certain things. It's like one of the reasons why there's an asteroid in astrology called gold and silver and all these other things, right? But there's actually an asteroid in astrology called red wine. And I have my red wine asteroid in my chart in the sign of Scorpio. And I used to be like obsessed with red wine. So it's very on brand with that Scorpio energy until it made me sick. I remember this one time I went over to a friend's house and had a bit of too much red wine. And I just remember the entire room just like spinning. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I've ruined my relationship with red wine. But I will say though, like I feel like I've kind of turned a new leaf when it comes to my wine drinking, and I feel like I really like rosé. Rosé is really good. It's lighter, and I also feel like it's just like she's a fun girl, the energy of rosé. I feel like we get along a lot better. But I like rosé, and I also like white wine every once in a while. But yeah, definitely. If I'm gonna drink wine nowadays, it's definitely gonna be a rosé.
We're gonna pop this open. Nicole mentioned that this wine is a Piquette, so it is not corked. It is carbonated, very lightly carbonated, so it comes actually with a tab, and we're gonna have to open it as if we were opening a bottle of beer.
Love that.
Yeah, so we're not going to have our corking sound bit that we usually like to have on the show, but maybe we'll have like a nice little like, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
We'll
have a
see.
sip.
Yeah, that was very soft, but it made a little sound. Oh, I could smell it from the bottle. She's fizzy.
Thank you.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
And cheers to you, Miriam. Thanks for being on the show. This is good. But Winnie's very contemplative right now.
You know what it tastes like? If you drink beer, it tastes like a sour.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah, it's juicy. It's fun. It's nice.
That sounds delicious.
All right, so to get started, we're just going to do a little overview of the Ascendant. And like I said, today we're going to focus more on planetary energies. So basically, what is the Ascendant? The Ascendant is the first point in the birth chart. It is the sign on the eastern horizon when you are born. It marks the start of the birth chart if we're looking at it. If you're looking at your circle chart, if you're not using CoStar, that has that weird graph chart that all astrologers hate. Your circle chart begins, if you're looking at a clock face, for example, it begins at the 9 o'clock point of the clock face, and then it actually proceeds counterclockwise. So reading a birth chart, if you're super into telling time, is kind of counterintuitive, but to me, it's what makes sense now. So your ascendant is at the 9 o'clock, and whatever sign is rising there is the sign that basically sets the tone for how the rest of your birth chart flows. It's the lord of the first house in astrology, and it changes approximately every 2 hours, which is why when you meet somebody who really wants to know what your birth chart looks like, they're so adamant that you give them an accurate birth time, because the 2-hour fluctuation can make a huge difference in what your actual rising sign is. Traditionally, the ascendant is said to represent not just your physical self, but like Nicole said, a lot of astrologers do mention that the ascendant is kind of like the mask. It's the face that you present, quote unquote, to the world and how you enter a room, essentially. But we also mentioned, we think that it actually has is pretty deeply ingrained in your psyche and personality overall. And it's not just, your public face. We kind of talked about this when we talked about the midheaven and the 10th house. Your ascendant is a core part of who you are. Presenting yourself a certain way is different than acting in a way that you want to be perceived, if that makes sense. Which is why, like you said, I don't like the word mask to describe the ascendant, because it implies that you're pretending to be someone that you're not.
100% I agree.
So like when you said too, whatever the ruling planet also of your ascendant is, the themes of that planet will also kind of show up quite a bit in itself, like through our chart and through our life too. So how do we find our chart ruler?
Your chart ruler is the planet that rules over your ascendant. So whether you practice modern or traditional astrology, it could vary for a couple of signs, but we talked about this in our last episode as well. Let's say you are an Aries rising. The planet that rules over Aries is Mars. So in order to get more in tune into the energies of what being an Aries rising means to you, which is why it's so important to know what time you were born, Aries now becomes just a piece of finding out your ascendant. Now you have to find Mars in your chart. So I actually used Aries as an example, and I said, if you have an Aries rising and then Mars in Leo, let's say, that means that you have Mars in the 5th house in Leo. And now, not only are you an Aries rising, but you carry the energy of having a 5th house Mars. What that means is basically the themes of the 5th house become more pronounced to you as an Aries ascendant in your life. This was very confusing to me when I was learning about all this, because I thought I had cracked the cheat code. Like, okay, I'm a Pisces rising. I'm a Neptunian, Jupiterian person, and that's all it means. But no, now you also have the influence of the sign that planet is in your chart.
Yeah, so what I did was like what I like to do for me personally is like I will look at my rising, which is Capricorn. What is the planet that rules Capricorn? It's Saturn. And then I like to find where Saturn is in my birth chart. So I have Saturn in my 1st house. So how I see is that like I see what house is it in, and I try to develop a relationship kind of with that house and kind of like further understand how that energy like manifests itself. Right?
You're lucky. Yours is in the 1st house.
Oh, really?
I feel like it's the easiest way to come to understand it when it's in the house that it's already ruling over.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Maryaam, what does that look like in your chart? You mentioned you're a Cap rising. Where is Saturn for you?
Yeah, so Saturn is in my third house.
Okay, so you're taking on a lot of Gemini themes in your personality. I guess that kind of explains the colorfulness. You have to change it up all the time.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it manifests. And that's why I was saying a bit earlier. I feel like my Saturnian energy manifests mentally for me because it's in my third house, which, the third house in astrology represents communication, your mental health, your mindset, the way that you convey information. So I'm always just like thinking about productivity and what needs to get done, what needs to be completed, what can I start or produce or initiate. Like I'm always just kind of, focused on that. Plus, I also have an Aries Saturn on top of that, so I'm just always on the go. But I feel like it's kind of a paradox because I feel like in certain ways, like sometimes that Saturn energy sometimes tries to get me just to kind of take a breather, to just be present and try to be in the present moment. I think, because here's the thing, I think when it comes to Saturnian energy, we often associate it with hard work and productivity, ambitiousness, which it is. But Saturn is also the planet of presentness and being cautious and things that take time. So I think, when you have prominent Capricorn or Saturn energy in your chart, I think it's just as important and imperative to just like take a moment just to like smell the roses, acknowledge the things that you've done, and then move forward with the next thing. I think sometimes Saturn really wants us just to kind of be present and be grounded. Because even think about it, right? Like Saturdays are ruled by Saturn, it's a weekend, right? People typically, I mean, unless you have a weekend job, but typically people use the weekends as a way to relax or, just to kind of take things a bit more slowly, especially on a Saturday, right? So, I feel like Saturn, on the other hand, also teaches us the importance of rest, especially because, when you think about it, Saturn also gets planetary joy in the 12th house of sleep and rest and healing and spirituality, right? So I think there's kind of a other side to that. But yes, my Saturn energy does manifest mentally because my chart ruler is in the third house.
I love the way that you talk about Saturn. You talk about it with such like positivity and you just make it seem so lighthearted because when it comes to astrology, I think people really do fear the outer planets, especially Saturn and Pluto. Like those are the two that really scare the shit out of people. So for you to be like, yeah, it's just about rest. It's about just like slowing down and taking time. We don't only have to focus or think about discipline and restriction and responsibility. Like those are a little bit heavier, but being grounded and taking it slow, I think is such a great like light-hearted way to look at Saturn because it's a planet that scares people.
It does. Everyone fears the Saturn return. It's even if you maybe aren't as familiar with astrology initially, like everyone knows what Mercury retrograde is, or they think they know. Everyone knows what a Saturn return is, and we're all terrified of it, Like, everyone knows that Pluto rules Scorpio, and therefore is scary because Scorpios are supposed to be scary. Like, everyone has the astrological stereotypes down. So... yeah. It's really tough to talk about Saturn in a positive light, which is why I find you so interesting because you mentioned it is a complete paradox to be as colorful and bubbly and lighthearted, just like in your content as you are, but then to know like, oh, she means business.
Yes. Yeah.
But you're like, it's up here.
Yeah, I think there's two sides to Saturn. I've also had, my own personal experiences with like, enjoying the more calm sides of Saturn energy because, and again, we don't have to go too deep into this, but in astrology, there's something called basically like looking at in simpler terms, it's basically looking at the chart of the moment. So basically, when you're studying the astrology of the moment, because everything has a birth chart, it's not just people, it's places, it's businesses, it's experiences. And so that's what I do a lot in my spare time, just looking at the astrology of certain moments or experiences that I have. And fun fact, a lot of times when I go out into nature, you know, in my spare time, and, you know, I get grounded and I'm very at peace, and I'm just like, you know, walking around doing some, you know, hiking, or just kind of walking around and just enjoying the beauty of nature. A lot of the times the chart of the moment will have a Capricorn rising. And, you know, I feel like we kind of associate this Capricorn Saturnian energy to always be associated with stress. But in those moments, I'm not stressed out. And the chart of the moment still has a Capricorn rising ruled by Saturn. And in fact, I'm very calm. I'm very relaxed. I'm taking my time, which again is a very Saturnian trait. So I think it's just really important for people to know that, you know, you're not doomed if you have a Capricorn rising or your Saturn's your chart ruler. Like, you're going to be fine. It's all good. You know, every planet, every placement has its pros and cons. And I think it's just as important to acknowledge the positive sides of it.
See, Nicole, you'll be okay.
Yeah,
With that.
I know.
Cap rising.
I know. I do have my moments. I just think it's just in the mood. Like some days I'm like, oh, woe is me. It's so hard. And then there's some days where I'm like, no, I actually love it. Like I'm a badass. Like I get shit done, man. Like, yeah.
Something that I mentioned earlier, which has been blowing my mind as I've been researching for this episode, was the fact that the chart ruler basically links the energy of the house it's in to your first house. So we mentioned in our episode with Tasha earlier this season, when we were speaking about the midheaven and the descendant, I think things get kind of complicated when you're reading a birth chart because you start to conflate two things. So we had to talk about how the midheaven in the 10th house, even though the midheaven is on the cusp of the 10th house, it's its own thing and it serves its own function in the birth chart, just like the ascendant serves its own function in the birth chart and although it's intrinsically linked to the first house also functions kind of on its own, especially if you have other planets in there. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about chart rulers, and I read that basically your chart ruler kind of highlights themes in your life based on the house that it's in, I found that really interesting because I think that now it's separating it from the conversation that we were having about the ascendant in the first house by putting a spotlight in another area of the birth chart. Yeah. So, Maryaam, I don't know if you had any insight into that, but for somebody basically explaining this in layman's terms, if we're talking about the first house and first house themes, and we're saying, okay, the first house is the house of the self. It is your physical body. It is how you appear to others, how people react to you, etc. But now, for example, you have your chart ruler in the third house, so the themes that become a focus in your life are third house themes.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so hard to explain this without making people feel confused.
Yeah, so the thing is, it's like, so when you look at basically how I would explain it is, think of like your ascendant as the potent source of energy that represents your own physical energy, right? It's the main powerhouse. And then your chart ruler is an extension of that. So look at your ascendant and then look at your chart ruler as the main components of what expresses your own physical energy. But if you have planets in your first house, that also tells another story as well, right? That also further encapsulates and represents like more about your personality. It's just that your ascendant angle, your rising sign angle, and your chart ruler will have the most influence over yourself, your body, your physical energy, and your life path journey. But it's not to say that the first house planets don't matter, because even when you think about it, through transits, when you're going through planetary transits and alignments, eventually those are going to be activated by the sun every single year. And so those energies and those times of the year, you'll also notice that the energy in your first house also becomes active as well, right? So let's just say, for example, you know, you have an Aries rising, right? But then you have Venus in the first house in Taurus. So you're going to come across as someone that, is very, most of the time, especially if your chart ruler, like Mars is, for example, like, let's just say, again, like, I'll use your example. If you have like Mars in the fifth house in the sign of Leo, right? So you're going to come across as someone that's very fiery, very confident, very assertive, someone that's very playful a lot of the times. But because you have a little bit of that Taurus energy in your first house, at specific times of the year, especially like when the sun, during Taurus season and activates your Venus and Taurus energy, you might notice that like during Taurus season, you feel a lot more calm, you feel more relaxed, you feel more pleasant. You might notice that you attract more compliments. So, I feel like when you have planets in the first house, even if they're not really conjunct to the ascendant or the rising sign angle, they still become active, they still are active, and you'll notice that they become more prominent, during other times of the year. So that's basically how I would describe it in terms of how to differentiate the energies separately.
There's a lot of layers there.
There are. But I feel like it makes a lot of sense, especially if you take into account, yes, the yearly transits, how the energy kind of ebbs and flows out of the houses as the year progresses, because different planets are going to hit different houses in your chart as the year goes by. That's why I always tell everyone, I usually tend to have pretty good summers because I have my fifth house is in Cancer, and then my seventh house is in Virgo. So typically when I get the sun and eventually Venus hitting those houses, I'm having fun in life. It's a great time. It really is. And then I usually tend to have pretty decent Taurus seasons because Venus, and Gemini seasons, because Venus is hitting my second house. And there's money coming in. Yeah. So exactly. So I definitely resonate with you saying that. It all will depend on what your transits are, especially if you are doing your transit calculators based on the planets in relation to your natal planets. Yeah. I find it's usually why not only do we have to suffer with horrible winters in Canada, but Aquarius season is hella depressing for me because everything's hitting my 12th house. So it's okay. By the time Pisces and Aries season rolls around, it's fine. But the winters are bleak. They really are. We talked about the physical body, and honestly, I don't know if I believe that certain rising signs give you certain characteristics physically. Obviously, like genetics and stuff plays into all that. But also, I think a part of the reason that I'm skeptical about this is because I'm a Pisces rising, and I swear, like, I look different every day. Like, my face does weird stuff. Sometimes I'm super bloated and I can't recognize myself. Other times, like, I have the cheekbones, jawline, everything going on. So I think maybe because I'm a mutable rising and I have a Pisces rising especially, that I don't have distinct things and features that I can pin down. Because in other people, I recognize the signs of what rising you might be. Okay. Like, I totally see people with Capricorn rising having, like, really good bone structure and cheekbones to die for. I see that. I see, I find Virgo risings also have really good bone structure from what I've seen. Like, from what I can suss out. And I can see Gemini risings having a really youthful appearance, baby face, but also having that kind of, like, elfish thing going on sometimes. Like, so now I'm contradicting myself because I'm like, I don't believe it, but it's like, maybe it's just me. I just don't see it in myself, but I can recognize it in other people.
I'm really curious to hear what your opinion on this is, Maryaam, because I'm kind of on the same boat with Winnie. I'm like 50-50 because sometimes when I'm reading about the physical features or the facial expressions of certain rising signs, I'm like, for example, when you read about Cancer risings, it's like, you have a moon-shaped face. And I'm like, really? Like, that feels too on the nose for me for you to say that. I don't know. So I'm a little, I don't know. How do you feel? Do you feel like the risings, like, really do have specific facial features that you can, like, recognize?
Yeah, I do believe that, because every rising sign and every planet is connected with a body part, and it's connected with like a part of like our physical energy. So I've noticed, like, for example, because Aries is connected with the eyes, like Mars and Aries are connected with the eyes. I've noticed that Aries risings and people that have their Mars in the first house, Mars, especially like, Mars concentrated in the first house, usually have really prominent eyelashes. They tend to have really big eyes, like, really prominent eyebrows, and very like defined, like a really defined eye area. But the thing is with this, I understand the nuances with it though, because it all goes back to the chart ruler, right? Like, what's your chart ruler doing? Then on top of that, if you have planets in your first house, that's also going to shape and differentiate what you look like, or your physical energy, right? It's kind of like, for me as an example, I'm a Capricorn rising, but a lot of people don't assume that I'm a Capricorn rising because I have three planets in my first house, right? So it's kind of, it can shape the way that you look, and your style, your aesthetic. It really depends. But I'm gonna just say this from like a general perspective. Like, if you just have a specific rising sign and you don't have any planets in your first house, then you're more likely to take on the general aesthetic of that particular rising sign. But if you have planets in your first house, that's going to change things a little bit.
I'm nosy. What planets do you have in your first house?
So I have Jupiter in my first house. I have Uranus in my first house, and then I have Neptune in my first house as well.
Wow.
That's a big stellium.
Yeah, you got a lot happening there.
You do a very potent energy there, especially with Jupiter and Uranus. I was like, Uranus in the first house, because you are very aesthetically unique. Like, there are so many astrologers online now, and there's such a boom of astrology, which I love to see, but you definitely stand out aesthetically. So Uranus influence, I can see that. Jupiter expands. Maybe that was the thing that was throwing me off. It wasn't a Leo rising with big hair. It was Jupiter expanding the crown, making it big. It's the Jupiter. So that's a lot of fun. I'm still trying to like pin down. I was telling Nicole, do I feel like I have Pisces rising traits? Kind of. Everyone says, oh, Pisces rules the feet. I'm like, okay, I'm not out there showing feet every day. But I was like, what is my face doing, right? Everyone also says, like, Pisces rising tend to have, like, dreamy eyes and this, like, far away look in your eyes. And people are always asking me, like, are you good? Because I do kind of gaze off into the distance a lot. I zone out a lot. I tend to daydream a lot, so I guess that part of it is true. But I also have Mars and Mercury in my first house, but my Mars is in Pisces.
Oh, is it?
Womp womp. Yes. It's in Pisces, and I do feel like I kind of fluctuate a lot between, like, it depends. The way that I dress and present myself aesthetically has a lot to do with how I feel, which is why I've also always been super anti jobs or anything that requires a uniform. I hate it.
Yeah.
I can't do it, because when I can't express myself verbally, I like to let the clothes speak for me. So, I love color.
Yes,
so if I'm ever wearing all black, it's just because I'm not having it. I don't want to be perceived. I don't want to be spoken to, and I don't want to speak to people.
Oh my God.
So that's how I communicate that.
I just think it's really funny that you said, like, yeah, like, I'm always daydreaming, because, like, obviously, like, 12th house and Pisces energies, like, they're all, like, daydreamers. And I think for facial features, this is not me trying to be mean, but I put that sometimes they look a little drunk. They have the sleepy eyes. No, but not drunk in a cute way, not like a sloppy way. Like, you guys just like that daydreamy, sleepy girl. Okay, maybe not drunk, tipsy. I'm sorry. Okay, I fucked that up. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but you guys have this cute little, like, EP girl look. Yes.
Drunk girl?
Yes.
Drunk girl aesthetic?
Yeah. Yeah, you guys just like you said, just like, I don't know, look a little sleepy, a little daydreamy, just a little out of it, and it's cute. Like, I actually really I like it.
Thank you.
Not like you look shit-faced.
Just like,
It's very adorable. It's very cute. I feel like Pisces risings have a very ethereal look to them. I feel like you guys have like a very type of like angelic, ethereal, like otherworldly type of energy about you guys. Especially with Pisces rising being the rare rising sign. I think that there's like an energy and essence about you guys that's very one of a kind compared to other people, which I think is very very beautiful to see.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So we mentioned that people with Aries ascendant, very prominent eyebrows and eyes. And you know what was funny? I don't know if you guys knew this, but Beyonce released a book, like a family history book this summer with her Cowboy Carter album release to celebrate the tour. And we have not had Beyonce's birth time forever. Like, she's been in the industry. Her career's spanned almost like 20, 30 years now. And it was so funny because we've known that she has a Virgo sun with a Scorpio moon, but the rising was kind of like up in the air. And it's been long speculated that she's a Libra rising. Why? Because she's gorgeous. Aesthetically very symmetrical, face, nice body, everything. She released her birth time in the book. She's an Aries rising.
Yeah.
Oh.
And shocked everyone. But it reminded me of what Maryaam said about the eye area being very prominent for Aries, because they typically do have, very long lashes, nicely shaped eyes. The eyebrows are also a telltale sign. Beyonce has these really nice, kind of like naturally arched eyebrows. And it was so funny because when that came out, so many astrologers hopped on and they're like, it actually makes a lot of sense for Beyonce to be Martian. If you think about her career, being a trailblazer, like the high standards that she has for being a performing artist and all of this stuff, and it reminded me, like, Beyonce is an Aries rising, Rihanna is an Aries rising as well, and she's also famous for her eyes and everything. So I thought that was really interesting. I wanted to bring celebrity examples into the conversation because I feel like if people are not familiar with their own charts and how to interpret their energies, it's always good to talk about celebrities because it's something that everyone can kind of like pinpoint and relate to. And I did a little write-up about all of the ascendants, and one that stuck out to me when I kind of looked into this was with Leo risings. Leo risings, a lot of people say like their mane is their crown. So people typically recognize them by their hair, which is why my guess about Maryaam was wrong. But
well, I will say in my ascendant persona chart, so basically the birth chart of my rising sign, I have a Leo rising. So I think that's what a lot of people are sensing from me. Because every area, like every planet, asteroid, and angle in the chart has its own birth chart, which is the persona chart. So if you really want to learn more about yourself and just like your own physical energy, you can always look at the ascendant persona chart. AstroSeek has that. So astro-seek.com has a section where you can pull up your persona chart. And so in my ascendant persona chart, I have a Leo rising. So that's what everyone is sensing,
Interesting.
So
okay,
it's not a full L.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you're definitely still on brand. You're still on the money.
Yay! I know we're going out of order, and we'll kind of touch on every one of these, but when I was looking at celeb birth charts and I was looking for a Leo rising celeb, I found Blake Lively's chart, and she's been in the news over the past couple of months, just because of the "It Ends With Us" controversy with Justin Baldoni and all of the drama that has ensued since then. They're like suing each other and everything. But what I thought was, okay, Blake Lively having a Leo rising makes sense because, you know, she's kind of known for her exuberant personality, personal style, big mane of hair. She started a hair care line. And what I thought was funny is that she's a Leo rising and a Virgo sun, but she has her Virgo sun in the first house as a Leo rising, if we're using a tropical Placidus system to look at the birth chart. And I just thought that was really on brand, because one of the big things that has come out during this controversy of her suing and being countersued is the fact that maybe her public persona is not as authentic as one would expect. Right, you know, she's very calculating in terms of her image, and even though, you know, you see her as this big bubbly Leo person on the surface, her Virgo sun does give very, you know, structured, meticulous, very cognizant of how she appears to others, and having a very curated image. So I was like, it makes sense, you know, like I'm sure that's still a big part of her personality, that she's very outgoing and everything. But I think that embodying kind of Virgo energy, the way that she approached the lawsuit and creating the public narrative to kind of sway the general public to her side in this perception, is very Virgo. Because Virgos do like to kind of like operate behind the scenes, but I think a big part of the characteristics of a Virgo that people don't really talk about, because they do tend to be another sign that can kind of veer into workaholism, is that they're a lot more controlling than people would think they are, because they're perfectionists, right? Like, you have to be controlling to an extent, because there's no such thing as perfection. There's always too many variables to the outcome of something for them to be perfect. So if you expect perfection, you're controlling. Like, Virgos, this is your wake-up call. You're controlling.
That's literally my footnotes. I said that. Like, that is so funny.
So Blake Lively's chart's actually pretty interesting. I've never been that interested in her, but just a brief like glance at her chart, I was like, she has a big first house stellium.
Oh.
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. Like, when I saw it myself, I was like, whoa, my goodness.
You know who else has a big first house stellium that I wrote down? Okay, so the three people I looked at for this episode were Blake Lively, inadvertently, for the Leo rising, and then Cancer rising. I actually looked at Angelina Jolie's chart, and just, of course, after looking at Angelina Jolie's chart, I had to look at Brad Pitt's.
Okay, yeah.
He's the other very big first house stellium.
Oh my god.
Yes, he has a massive first house cap stellium, but he's a Sag rising.
And oh wow.
Yeah. So when we get there, we can talk about him. Yeah. But did you want to talk about Taurus risings, because Phil's a Taurus?
Oh my god. Well, he's just such a little workaholic. Like, that's all.
Okay, so Nicole's partner is a Taurus rising, with his Venus in Libra, right?
Yes.
Yes. So because he has a Scorpio descendant, his Libra Venus would be in his 6th house, right? So kind of explains why he's a little workaholic.
Yes, absolutely. There's no work-life balance there. But I mean, with Taurus energy, the themes of like money and wealth come up, right? Like, they are always seeking a life of wealth, but not just to be greedy or just to have money for the sake of having it. Like, money brings luxury, yes, but it also brings comfort. So and stability, exactly. So that energy is always looking to prioritize finding stability in their lives, and they're focused on making their lives as comfortable as they can, and it's something for them to enjoy, right? Because like you said, money brings stability, money brings security. And yeah, like, Why not have a beautifully curated life? I want to come home to my house that, is paid off and that is aesthetically pleasing with our nice furniture pieces that you've invested in, and
I do like for their surroundings to be
your Joe Malone candles.
beautiful surroundings. But I think the thing that I find interesting about the fact that he's a Taurus rising, but his Venus is ruled by Libra, is because it's kind of, for him, it's kind of a blend of both. Whereas I find like Taurus energy is more interested in the tangible things because they are ruled by their senses. So they care a lot about how things look, but it's also almost more important how they feel.
Yeah.
How they're structured, right? Like they're very tactile and they need for things to feel nice. Whereas Libra energy is a little bit more, I don't want to say ideologically different, but I think aesthetics are a lot more pronounced in Libra than they are in Taurus. Like I have a lot of Libra girlfriends and they're very much about like how things look. So let's say, what's a good example? Because I'm a Taurus. I like how things feel. Like material is very important to me. Like when I'm shopping, I'm just like, okay, I need to look at the
You want like soft fuzzy stuff, like you're looking at the fabric
composition, whatever. Like would I ever wear a sequin dress? Even though it looks good, probably not, because it's scratchy.
Yeah.
Whatever. Whereas like my Libra girlfriend, she's just like, it's pink, it's shiny, there's sequins, I'm wearing it.
Yeah.
I don't care what it feels like or how uncomfortable it is. It looks good. You know what I mean? So I think that's why that interested me for Phil, because I was like, okay, he wants to do both. So I was like, he's like double bougie because he wants the best, like top quality, but he also wants it to look amazing.
Yeah.
You guys are a match made in hell. I'm kidding.
Yeah, with my son being in the second house. Yes. Yeah.
For I find that people who are ruled by Venus in that way typically are also just like very well received by others. You know, it's not like Mars where the energy could be a little bit polarizing. They tend to create more goodwill through their interactions with other people just because Venus is naturally charming.
Yeah.
So even if it is in a planet like, I have Venus in Aries. We know Aries is a little bit of a troublemaker and can be a bit abrasive, but I think that if you are somebody who has a Venusian rising and a more polarizing Venus sign, that energy kind of mellows out a bit as well, and people are more receptive to it because of the Venusian influence.
Absolutely. I think with that whole Venus energy, I feel like Taurus and Libra risings are just effortlessly charming, very charismatic people. Also great sense of humor because Venus rules over comedy, because comedy is a form of pleasure. It makes us feel good. Great sense of style and aesthetic. Libra and Taurus risings, huge foodies as well. Notice that they typically are either really good with cooking or baking. And they also typically they tend to have good voices too, whether that's like a speaking voice or a singing voice. There typically tends to be a lot of like creative inclination or creativity or some kind of creative talent with Taurus and Libra risings. The cool thing with Taurus risings, though, is that because they're just like so, financially focused, they're typically the kinds of people that are more likely to be able to monetize off of their creative talents or like their creative hobbies. I'm not saying that Libra risings can't. I mean, like they can do that through networking because Libra is such a social sign. But I find that Taurus risings tend to have like more of like this energy and essence that pushes them to like really monetize off of like something that they love to do, or at least something that they're creatively skilled with.
I think it's interesting that you said that they have, when you're talking about their voice, because I put in my notes too that I feel like they have such a beautiful or poetic way of speaking. I think that's what adds to the charm of them. When they're talking, it's so nice to listen to their voice. Like, so I had that in my notes and I said, yep.
Yeah, it's because Venus rules over the voice. So like the vocal cords, the throat, the throat chakra, all of those things.
I always forget to associate the planets with body parts like that. That's really bad of me to say that, but I sometimes always forget that. So that's a good reminder.
It's all good.
We mentioned Gemini risings briefly and how they typically tend to have features that are a little bit babyish.
Yeah.
Youth is associated with Gemini a lot, playfulness. I think that, you know, it's easy to say that people who have Gemini risings have a baby face. It may not always play itself out in, like, you mentioned, you know, Cancer risings have a moon face, etc. It doesn't mean like you literally physically look like a baby. It might just manifest in you looking younger than your age, or just having a more youthful demeanor. You know, the phrase young at heart comes to mind. You know, you could be a certain age but still give off a youthful energy. So that is more akin to Gemini risings versus specific features that they have. A lot of the time, people who are mercurial or ruled by Mercury tend to have, I think, physically, Gemini rules the hands. So I mentioned this in an episode before. I was listening to Cher's audiobook for her autobiography, and she said, the first thing I noticed about Sonny Bono was that he had beautiful hands. And just from that phrase, I was like, Cher has to have a Gemini Venus. Lo and behold, Cher has a Gemini Venus. Because why is that the first thing that you notice about somebody is how nice their hands are. So Gemini rules the hand. So if there's a physical attribute that you could notice from a Gemini rising, is that they either have nice hands, or they might be people who just notice people's hands. Yeah. You know, that could be something as well. And the youthfulness, again, just having kind of like a gay-man kind of physique. So being kind of lanky, just like in that adolescent state, body image stage for a prolonged period of time. It could be something as well that mercurial people have going on for them. But again, Gemini energy is very playful, so these people tend to be very social and sociable and popular. They can adapt and kind of make their way through a crowd, have a really easy time kind of integrating themselves wherever they go. But the funny thing about Gemini energy is that even though they're very good at socializing, you know, they're kind of just there to observe. You know, they're not taking everything so seriously. They just like knowing things, which is fun.
Yeah, Gemini rising or like third house energy. It's funny that you were talking about how they're very restless, they're very extroverted, and I feel like this energy is very popular. They're always on the go, but locally, right? So like this person is like having
third house rules over short trips.
Yeah, so they're going out for brunch, and then after they're going to do yoga, and they're going to head home and get ready because they're going to go to the movies, and then after that they have like a dinner date and a little like after party at like a really cool art gallery, or like they're always hosting to have like their friends over. So they're very out and about. They're very extroverted. They're very popular, but within the community.
I find that Gemini risings make very good social media influencers, or people that have, you know, Gemini on their 10th house, like their midheaven, or they have like Mercury in the 10th house, or Mercury in the 11th house, even Mercury in the 7th house. Like that Gemini mercurial energy does very well in online spaces.
Well, everyone always says that they're the yapper because they're super, super talkative. Like they're super talkative. You could always have like fun, lighthearted conversations with them, and they just are very curious about the world around them. They need that mental stimulation. So it's always great to have conversations with them. Yeah, they have a sharp mind, and they're actually really fun to be around.
They are. I like Gemini. I like Gemini energy a lot. It's just it can also be a lot.
Yeah, that's also true.
it's easy to get overstimulated like when you are around Gemini energy, just because it's hard to follow. Like their train of thought isn't always linear.
Yeah.
Like it's like having constant epiphanies when I talk to my Gemini friends. Like, we'll be talking about one thing, and then she'll link it to something else. And she's like, and didn't you know that da-da-da-da, and this and this and that? And I'm just like, okay, but how does that... Wait, weren't we just talking about something else? So you just, like, you have to be quick, too. Like, you need to keep up.
Yeah.
I agree. And that's also coming from a Gemini herself, my Gemini Sun and Gemini Mercury. I will say though, like my Mercury does aspect Saturn, so I feel like Saturn is like, okay, hold on a second, just relax before you move on to the next thought. Yeah, I feel a lot of that Gemini energy internally, because I feel like I think a lot and I do speak a lot for my job because I'm doing a lot of like talking to clients, but for the most part I would say I'm a relatively like ambiverted person. So like I have my moments where I'm very social, but then I also have my moments where like I just like I need time to just recharge and I just need complete quietness. And so I find that I tend to like I notice that I every once in a while, well, not every once in a while, pretty consistently, like I do like to have my moments where I'm just not really saying anything and I'm just like enjoying listening to people. So like it depends with kind of my mood and how I'm feeling.
Who is next? Oh, Cancers. Okay, so this is what Nicole meant about the moon phase. What I was going to say about Cancer risings, like, okay, yes, Cancer kind of fills things out. So, stereotypically, what is said about Cancer risings is that they are curvy. Like, Cancer rules the breast. So, Cancer people and Cancer risings, a lot of the time, that is like a point of focus. For women, especially, big boobs, tiggle bitties, whatever you want to call them. The breasts are emphasized, and then the face could take on a more like cherubic appearance, so rounder, softer features. But on the opposite end, this is another placement that I find can have very pronounced bone structure. So it's like two sides to the moon, like we see the moon in all of its phases and all of its faces, from like the new moon to the full moon and everything in between. And as the moon waxes and wanes, it gets bigger and smaller to the eye. So a lot of people who I actually know with Cancer risings have incredible bone structure. But then I also know a lot of Cancer risings that have softer, rounder features and that like stereotypical moon phase. So I feel like it's two extremes. One thing I do find that if you're just looking at their faces, they tend to have a shorter face. So maybe that's what's giving the impression that it's rounder. But yeah, like I feel like a lot of people, when you say like, oh, Cancer risings have rounder faces, like you're saying they have like a pie face or something. No. It's just, two sides of the moon. And it's also one of those signs, like, the moon changes, like, every 2 days or so into a new sign. So it's, even though Cancer's not a mutable sign, people who have Cancer risings, I find their look also changes a lot from, not from day to day necessarily, but from varying points in time. Just like the moon in general. Maryaam, what do you think? Because I feel like it's one of those rising signs where it's kind of hard to pinpoint what their features would be.
Yeah, well, I definitely agree with what you're saying about the softer features, the rounder features, but also some Cancer risings having a sharper kind of bone structure. Because when you look at it from the technical perspective, the moon has dignity in Capricorn. So the moon is in detriment, or is in detriment in Capricorn. So the fact that the moon also has essential dignity, meaning that it, technically speaking, also has a connection with that Capricorn and Saturnian energy, is a reason as to why you'll notice that some Cancer risings, again, like some of them do have softer, rounder features, but some of them also have like a little bit of like this, like that sucked in type of like bone structure feature. It makes a lot of sense from a technical perspective. And yeah, I mean, I feel like Cancer risings definitely have a very beautiful energy about them. They have this natural ability to make everyone around them feel very safe and nurtured and protected, and incredible intuitions. Like, you cannot lie to these people. They will always know. Like, they're always on it. They're always just like, always. I feel like Cancer risings are like energetic sponges. They pick up on energies whether they want to or not, which is why I feel like it's really important for Cancer risings or people that have the moon in the first house you know, if your moon, or if, again, like if your moon is your chart ruler, make sure that you're cleansing yourself. You're spiritually, energetically cleansing yourself, taking spiritual baths, because y'all be taking on energies that you don't even want to be taking on. So just make sure that you're cleansing yourself, because I have noticed that, like, especially for my water risings, people that have like these, you know, planets, you know, like especially like, you know, Neptune, uh, Pluto, Moon ruling over your ascendant, you know, you tend to become like the therapist friend in your friend group. Like everyone runs to you when they have a problem, when they have an issue, which is, you know, nice. People feel safe with you, right? But you also have to make sure that you're also like keeping yourself guarded at times, or like setting important boundaries so that you don't become just like everyone's like, you know, source of like taking energy from, because it also takes a lot of energy to be so nurturing all the time, even if you want to be, right? You also have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So I think for like Cancer risings, moon in the first house people, or like the moon's your chart ruler, just make sure you're also taking time for yourself. You're taking a nap and you're, you know, prioritizing that self-care. It's really important.
Yeah, I think that that comes with like any water signs or energy. Like they're just so naturally receptive, and so in tuned with their environment and the people that are around them. I think this is why Cancer risings, they choose who they want to be emotionally invested in their life, because they're so nurturing and people are so drawn to them. And like you said, they make people feel safe, and they're so in tune with the people around them. So, you know, having a Cancer rising friend or somebody whose chart rules in the fourth house, like they're going to be checking in on you. Like they're going to be following up with a certain situation. They're going to be asking you, how's your job? How's that new person you're seeing? Just like want to make sure that you're doing okay, because they're just so receptive to the world around them. And they're so open to people talking to them about their problems. Like you said as well, they are the mom of the friend group. They will be taking care of their friends and the people around them. They just have that maternal energy about them. If you're going out drinking and partying, that Cancer friend is going to like be holding your hair when you're puking, making sure that you're not overdoing it, making sure that everybody gets home safe. Like they just have that nurturing, sensitive side to them, even though they can have that tough exterior. I think sometimes when people meet Cancer risings, they're kind of shocked how they have this soft side to them, because again, they kind of have that wall up a little bit, right? That tough exterior. So, and I also find that they're soft spoken, but maybe this is just for all, well, I don't want to say all water signs, definitely Pisces and Cancer. I feel like they're very soft spoken. I don't know, there's something that's just very sweet and calming and soothing about their voice. So
Very, very gentle, empathetic, compassionate people. You know, very like emotionally sensitive, which is good. It's good to feel things. I feel like as a Scorpio moon, I feel like I fight my emotions a lot. Like feeling sad about something, I'm like, who has time for this? Like this is ridiculous.
oh no.
Like, bye. We have work to do. What is this?
What are these? Feelings?
Pardon?
Feelings? What are those?
Yeah, like I don't have time for that. Like my brain doesn't understand. And I'm kidding. My brain definitely understands emotions. It's kind of uncomfortable for me as a Scorpio moon. So I feel like with Cancer risings, Pisces risings, I feel like they're just so naturally in tune to it, and I think it's a really beautiful thing.
It's funny that you mentioned the moon is in detriment in Capricorn, because my friend who I was thinking of, who has amazing bone structure and is a Cancer rising, is a Capricorn moon. So her moon in Capricorn is in the seventh house, and that is what is her chart ruler. But yeah, that Capricorn moon is definitely influencing that Cancer rising, and she's taking on those characteristics physically, because yeah, when you look at her, you wouldn't think Cancer rising unless you would. Cancer rising, the celebrity that I picked for this was Angelina Jolie. So Angelina Jolie is a Cancer rising ruled by an Aries moon in the ninth house. And I thought that was really interesting because, you know, everyone knows Angelina Jolie. Her having an Aries moon and that being her chart ruler, considering that when she was at the peak of her acting career, she was in a lot of very physically demanding roles. Like, we're talking Lara Croft Tomb Raider, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, when she did Salt. Like, she's an action star, like a female action star, or was very early on in her career. A lot of her roles required a lot of physicality, and her having an Aries chart ruler makes a lot of sense. I loved looking at her chart. It's also, especially since she does have a ninth house moon, and she's very spiritual, and travel means a lot to her, and she ended up, adopting a lot of her children during her travels. And Cancer, like you said, Nicole, is a sign that represents the mother in a lot of people's charts, right? So her wanting to define her motherhood through her experiences traveling and having a ninth house moon, I was like, oh, I love astrology.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the moon is also tied to family, right?
Yes.
It's family and like your home, and reflecting also on like your past and those family patterns in your childhood. So a lot of themes of family or like family traditions show up too as well. Yeah, so that's actually fun that you said that. Have you looked at Angelina's birth chart, Miriam?
Yeah.
Oh, you have.
Yeah, her chart. I was actually, funny enough, I was looking at it like I think a week and a half ago, because I was just really curious, because she was at the Toronto International Film Festival a couple of weeks ago, and when I went, I realized that she was there, and I was just like, oh, like I was watching one of her interviews, and I was just like, this woman is so, her energy is like so like calm and like really very soft, but there's also like an energy about her that's very assertive and very powerful and very like self-assured. And so when I checked her chart, I'm like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense why she has a very kind of soft and endearing energy about her. But at the same time, I feel like Angelina is like one of those people where it's like, when you cross her boundaries, like that's it. Like she'll have no problem like telling you, hey, like that's effed up, like, or don't mess with me, or I feel like that Aries moon energy like is very fiercely protective and fiercely, nurturing in a lot of ways, especially for her children and the things that she cares about. She's a really strong advocate, and she does a lot of humanitarian work as well. And so it's just like she really cares, and you can really sense that with her Cancer rising energy. I feel like Cancer risings have this natural inclination to really care about people and really care about things outside of themselves, and I think it's a really beautiful quality.
I think so too, and I think especially now, if you've kind of watched her career progress, I think that Aries moon was a lot more evident earlier on in her career, because she was very bold, and in the 90s, so many of the things that she did, which was just her being herself, she was very controversial, like we've all seen the videos of her on the red carpet, just like all over Billy Bob Thornton, and I was like, wow, I need to see their synastry chart, because this is crazy.
Oh, that must be like through the roof, like heavy Mars, Lilith energy.
Yes.
Pluto, like definitely like very spicy energy for sure.
Yes. So I was looking at that, and then kind of looking at how she presents herself now, just like very put together, very demure, much more reserved, and that's just probably like the progression of all of the planets in her chart, but also just her settling down a bit, because we had a guest last week, and her moon is in Aries, and I was always talking about how I'm very envious of Aries moons, because I feel like they kind of go all in on their emotions. Like, they're very reactive and impulsive, but they really allow themselves to feel their emotions in the extreme and like act out on them. And as an Aquarius moon, where I have to rationalize everything and kind of create a linear thought process of why things are happening and why I feel the way I feel about things. I'm like, no, I wanna crash out too.
Yeah, I want my partner to wear a necklace with a vial of my blood. Like,
So it's just watching her now as she's gotten older and is a lot more reserved and to herself. I think also like obviously the relationship with Brad Pitt and how public that was. She's kind of done the hermit crab thing where she was very public and very out there. Yes, for her career, but also in that relationship. And she has retreated a lot in her public persona and public image since then, which is obviously very concerning because when cancers feel hurt or there's a wound there, they retreat. And I feel like through Angelina's public image, we've seen her do that in the last couple of years with regards to her career. Just kind of like she will come out, do the press when she needs to for whatever projects she's promoting. And aside from that, she's just like living a quiet, private life, which is very opposite of how she was earlier on in her career, where she was a lot more open and demonstrative of her emotions, whether they were good or bad. You knew this was such an interesting rising sign.
yeah, because I always think about how Angelina, like, I loved 90s Angelina, like, such a total badass. Like, she had, like, this grungy goth vibe.
Very much embodied, like, that Martian energy of, like, black leather pants and dark
Would play with
liner.
knives. She was, like, on an interview. She was, like, playing with a
switchblade,
switchblade.
yeah.
Like, so cool, though. Like,
very Aries. You would relate to that, wouldn't you?
yeah. And then so just seeing her like transition and mature to this beautiful put together person, so different than the Angelina we know from when she was with Billy Bob, you know. So what a time, though.
It was a time to be alive. The 90s. Long live the 90s.
I know. Oh God.
I like to rewatch clips because I was born in '97, so I wasn't a '90s baby. I wasn't a '90s kid. I was a '90s baby. But I like to rewatch moments from that. I'm like, wow, that's very, very interesting. Or things were like very entertaining in their own right. Yeah.
We kind of did Leo when we talked about Blake Lively, but we mentioned the basics. Big hair a lot of the times, and in her case, a planetary ruler in the first house kind of puts a lot of big emphasis on the self and the ego, and, you know, Virgo being meticulous likes to curate and create a very specific image. It's kind of giving like 10th house vibes almost, but yeah, public image is a little bit more pronounced when you have the planetary ruler in the first house, especially if it is the sun. But moving into Virgo, so again, also mercurial, but Virgo risings don't have the reputation of youthful energy. They kind of get the short end of the stick of Mercury, I think, because everybody thinks of it as like the more meticulous placement. So I didn't see anything saying traits that a Virgo rising might have physically. I know that what I've noticed from a lot of Virgo risings that I interact with is that, like Capricorns, they tend to have really good bone structure. From what I've seen, most of the, like, in celebrity charts or Virgo risings that I know personally, cheekbones snatched, like the jawline. A lot of my celeb crushes who are men have Virgo risings.
And who are they? Tell us.
I used to have a huge crush on Chris Evans.
Oh my God, I know.
Yeah. Chris Evans has a Virgo rising. Chris Pine also has a Virgo rising, and he has like a huge Virgo stellium. It's like Sun, Moon, Venus, and like Mercury or something. So he's just a Virgo. Like, I don't think anything else in his chart matters when you see that stellium. It's pretty insane. But But yeah, they tend to be really reserved, but like very quick-witted. Again, similar energy to Gemini, but I don't think it's as free-spirited here, because at the end of the day, like, Virgo's still an earth sign, and earth signs, the common thread that they're all kind of like working towards is just like feeling stable and secure and safe. So there's always going to be a little bit of like a reserved energy
Yeah. Well,
there.
those all go into play too as well with how they do very well in a routine set environment. I know it sounds really boring, but I think they thrive with like an organized schedule. Like they like having a routine, like whether it's a workout routine, whether it's a skincare routine, maybe like waking up every day at the same time with their alarm and like journaling, like, or how they're eating or their diet or going to the gym. They gain a lot of fulfillment through these actions, and that kind of, I feel like, plays into their need of control, which we already touched on, like making sure they're controlling their environment and what they're doing. They are workaholics. They don't really have a work-life balance because, again, themes of this house is like work schedules, daily routines, your health and your habits. And they find a lot of comfort and purpose, so they like being productive. And they're very quiet and observational and very, I guess, yeah, we could say perfectionists because, again, they like their routines and they like their control and they like things to be done a certain way. So there's work. Work goes into being into the perfectionism.
I think something to note about people who have Virgo energies, like especially if you're looking at the Virgo Pisces axis, is that like on one side with Virgo energy, there's a lot of control, controlled environment. Again, like when we say control, it's not a negative connotation necessarily. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Do you know what I mean? It's not like when we talk about control in a Plutonian and Scorpio sense, where it has more to do with power dynamics. Virgos more so just like control because they like knowing what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
They just need to be aware of what is going on. Is there a schedule? Like, are we doing, like, they love an itinerary.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. But I find that like people with Virgo placement, even Virgo risings, they love to work hard, but they love to play hard too. And these people party.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I think it's the mercurial energy. Like there's always going to be a sense of play being important whenever Mercury is involved. So I think that like, even though Taurus is ruled by Venus, and it's a more social kind of aspect that they enjoy. Like, Virgo needs play, so they need to be out. And it's probably why they also overdo things, because everything in their life is so regimented that when they do get to let loose, they kind of go overboard.
Yeah.
So yeah, most of the Virgo risings that I know tend to really like to party.
Oh, they party hard.
They do. Oh, sorry, Maryaam. But you're kind of just listening. Like, what did you think? I forgot to ask you.
Yeah, no worries. I feel like Virgo risings, and I feel like the energy and sign of Virgo is the serious side of Mercury. I feel like Gemini is the playful side of Mercury, and then Virgo is like, okay, it's time to work. It's time to get things done. I feel like with Virgo risings, I really feel like Virgo risings need to have and try their best to have some type of work-life balance and have time to just like be off. You know, and I say be off, I mean like have time where they can just like do some yoga, you know, go out into nature, go for walks, you know, just like do things that eases their nervous system, because the nervous system is connected with Virgo, right? So that's why Virgo risings tend to struggle with anxiety or overthinking a lot, or, you know, feeling like they can never like shut their mind off. So I feel like Virgo risings need to have some type of mental outlet so that they don't go crazy, you know, or they don't drive themselves crazy, because there's a lot of thoughts going on up there, you know, especially if, like, for example, you're a Virgo rising with like Mercury in the first house. Like, I know you're thinking a lot, right? So I think that Virgo risings need to just like have some kind of outlet where they can just kind of have a bit of an escape from, you know, the day-to-day type of responsibilities or activities. And I think that's a big reflection of like the Virgo Pisces axis. I think that Virgo risings need to be able to have like a fun, safe form of escapism so that they don't burn out. I feel like Virgo risings are so susceptible to burning out because, as you said, like they're very keen on having a very strict schedule and being on top of things and staying productive. But it's like, I feel like Virgo risings also need to make sure that they have a life outside of that and that they also cater to that.
Be productive, but at what cost?
Yeah. Yeah. Virgo risings need to make sure that they're not jeopardizing their health. You can't jeopardize your health and neglect yourself for the sake of productivity. And that says a lot, especially coming from a Capricorn rising. So,
You guys, listen to the Saturnian.
This is the Virgo intervention.
Yes.
This is the Virgo intervention.
We're going to talk about Libra risings next. The sign that everyone thought Beyonce was. So, obviously, aesthetics play a big part in the Libra rising. They are ruled by Venus, just like Taurus. They are known for, being the beauty queen rising. Very aesthetically pleasing. I don't think there is a specific... I know that Libra rules the back and, like the curve of the back, small of the back, buttocks area. But they're also just known for having really symmetrical, even, pleasant features, even if they're not as striking as, say, like a Capricorn rising or a Leo rising. Just like general harmonious features, like generally attractive people, also very charming. I think the biggest attribute that Libra risings have, aesthetics aside, is definitely their way with words, their ability to charm people.
Yeah.
Their ability to ingratiate themselves to others and to have people wish well on them and want to give them things. People just like to do things for them. They attract a lot of what they manifest just by kind of like showing up.
Networking, making those connections, those relationships, interacting with people. Yeah, all themes of Libra in the 7th house.
I feel like, they could just be very lucky people socially a lot of the time.
I agree. I feel like, yeah, like kind of like what I was saying earlier, I feel like Libra risings have a charisma about them that makes them very well liked. I feel like Libra risings also have an energy about them where they know how to like sway people, like they're just very good at just making friends, making connections. I feel like Libra risings have, a very great sense of style and they're very pleasant to be around. And then also, with them being ruled by Venus is the planet of ease, right? So having a Libra rising, Venus in the 1st house, Venus as your chart ruler, it can make certain things easier for you than other people. It can make certain things turn out well for you, or you might not have to work as hard for certain things compared to others, right? So I feel like when you're born with like a Libra rising, I feel like it's kind of like from like a spiritual perspective of like the universe being like, hey, take a rest, okay? Like, we got this handle. You don't have to like, burn yourself out to like get this. Like, you don't have to do as much, So again, it depends on what sign Venus is in, of course, because if you're a Libra rising with Venus and Capricorn, okay, that might be a bit different. But I just like from a general perspective, I feel like that Venusian energy really kind of helps to soften a person's energy or a person's life path journey in certain ways. So there's that. The only thing I will say, though, that I've noticed with Libra risings on the challenging aspects of it is I feel like they typically are on the brunt end of like people's judgment. Because, like judges, lawyers, like the prospect of judgment is all connected with Venus and Libra, the 7th house. So I feel like with Libra risings and Taurus risings, I feel like sometimes people almost like judge them for certain things, or like they're kind of like the victims of like people comparing themselves to them or being compared to. Because, when you look at the archetype of Libra, it's the balancing scales, like you're weighing things, you're comparing things, right? So it's like, that's something that I've noticed about, Libra risings especially. But Regardless, though, it's a nice energy. You're ruled by a positive, benefic planet, so it's nice. You've won the astrological lottery.
I feel like, yeah, they could just be very lucky people socially a lot of the time.
It's cute energy. I like it.
It is. I don't know if I know a lot of. I know a lot of Libras. I don't know if I know a lot of Libra rise.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing too. I'm like, actually, for an Aries sun, I actually do know quite a few Libra people. I mean, only like one of them actually I would say is like my close friend. The rest don't
Ops.
like me. Yeah, they're ops.
Oh, my best friend is actually a Libra rising. She's a Libra rising with a Libra sun, and she has her North Node in Libra as well. So like she has a Sun and North Node conjunction in Libra. Yeah, and then one of my other friends is also a Libra. Has a Libra rising, Libra sun, Libra Mercury. So I know quite a few Libras.
You attract a lot of Libra energy.
Yeah, you have a lot of Libra energy in your life.
I do. It's nice energy. It's very healing for me. Libra falls into my 9th house, so I feel like I always have a lot of fun with Libra placements.
I find that it goes 50-50 for me, and I started to notice that I get along with people who are Libras and have September Libras. And I think it's because my chart is pretty even, because my rising is at 13 degrees and my 7th house is at 15 degrees. So from then on, it's kind of split between two signs every time. So Libra is on the cusp of my 8th house. So September Libras, their sign tends to fall into my 7th house. And I tend to find that I build a rapport with them. I get along with them a lot more. And the Libras who typically rub me the wrong way are Libras that have their birthdays in October and their sun is hitting my 8th house. That's usually when there's tension.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I noticed that because I was just like, because Nicole and I always have this like running joke on the podcast. Like Libra is always the sign that catches the most flack from both of us. Like we have this like most love and kind of hate relationship with them. But I do have a lot of Libras in my life and a lot of Libra friends who I love, but then I do have a lot of sworn enemies that are also Libra, and they're all October Libras. I noticed that because I was just like, because Nicole and I always have this like running joke on the podcast, like Libra is always the sign that catches the most flack from both of us. Like we have this like most love and kind of hate relationship with them, but I do have a lot of Libras in my life and a lot of Libra friends who I love, but then I do have a lot of sworn enemies that are also Libra, and they're all October Libras.
8th house synastry is very polarizing.
It is. It's scary. It's probably the same reason why, again, like it's the 50-50. It's the Scorpios that are hitting my 8th house that I'm kind of like, distance.
Yeah.
But the ones that are in my 9th house, I got along with them great. Yeah, 8th house is scary. I'm scared of anything to do with that.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, the one that's coming up right after.
Yes. So we're talking about Scorpio risings. I know everyone loves to talk about a Scorpio rising. They are ruled by Mars as well, or Pluto if you're using modern astrology. We've already talked about Martian energy and it ruling over the eyes, and another sign that has a reputation for having a very piercing and intense gaze is the Scorpio and Scorpio risings. Like they peer into your soul. It's always like, what are you looking at? Their eyes are like
Yeah, they're like, I'm just listening to you talk. Like, I'm just listening to you talk, and you're like, I feel like you're reading my mind right now. The eyes are always a dead giveaway for me. They're just so strong, and you're drawn. Yeah.
They have this knowing gaze.
Mm-hmm. Strong stare.
Yeah, and it's just like you just feel so exposed when a Scorpio rising is looking at you.
What a rising sign.
It's very intense energy, and it's funny because we mentioned this earlier in a couple of episodes ago. There is a very specific stereotype that Scorpio falls into, which is like they're super surly and intense and just like, you know, dark clothes and leather, etc., etc. And Nicole and I were talking, we're like, Scorpios are actually very social for a water sign and a sign that is Plutonian. A lot of the times, most Scorpios that we come across have a very lighthearted energy, and it's like, but that's how they get energy, information out of you. They ask a lot of questions. They're very probing, but you can't just go around interrogating people. That doesn't work. People are not going to open up to you and tell you things if you're interrogating them. You have to have some sort of amenable quality, and I think a lot of people lose that on in Scorpios. What I will say is they're very charismatic a lot of the times, even if they're intense. So it's like, yeah, they can't just like walk around being bullies and like asking you questions. Like, no, a lot of like that dark and like super harsh energy that you're attributing to Scorpio, I'm sorry, is very Aryan a lot of the time. Aries are the ones that are like going in super brash and like, tell me this, you know, like.
So you guys broke up? What happened?
Exactly. Scorpio would be like, oh, how are you doing? How are things lately? You know, like, how have you been? You're looking a little down. And then you're like, oh, well, actually, this happened. And they're like, oh, yeah?
It's so funny you said that because my sister is a Scorpio rising, and she was like, "Oh, I think just to say like different names." She's like, "I think Matt and Sarah broke up," and she's like, because they both went to a concert, but they're not together in their stories. And then my sister so happened to run into Sarah, I would say, a week later, and was like, "Hey girl, like I saw that you went to the concert. How was it with Matt? You guys probably had such a good time together." And then Sarah to be like, "Actually, no, we broke up." And my sister was able to get the tea on that.
They're very smart. Like, a Scorpio energy is very cunning. That's why I think that, you know, Scorpio risings probably embody more of that intensity that people expect from Scorpio suns, and the moon as well. You know, they're just a lot better at hiding it because your moon is more of your subconscious. When you have the rising, like, it's right there, smack dab in your face. That is what people get, and that's what people sense from you. Whereas Scorpio suns kind of fly under the radar, and most of them are pretty bubbly for the most part.
Yeah.
The Scorpio risings, like, you guys are not off the chopping block. You're intense. Very intense people. Kind of scary.
Yeah, rightfully so. But I think it's also because, like, Scorpio and the eighth house are all associated with themes of like death and rebirth. So transformation is such a common theme for people with this placement. They're constantly encountering or finding themselves in situations where those situations are life altering, or they have to make life altering decisions, and it happens more than once. Like, they're constantly shedding old skin. So I think that's why when they're always going through these deep transformations and you meet one, they're just really intense because they've been through it. They really have.
Being a Scorpio sounds hard.
Yeah. Do you know any Scorpio risings, Maryaam, in your life?
Not personally. Not personally. I'm trying to. I don't really. You know, it's really interesting. My best friend, she's a Scorpio sun, but aside from that, I don't. I don't think I've ever really had a Scorpio rising or a Scorpio moon friend. Like, I kind of joke about this on Twitter. I'm like, where are you guys hiding? Like, why? Like what's going on here? Where are you guys? I feel like, and especially for me being a Scorpio moon, I kind of joke about this, but it's very true. I feel like I'm a very public person for a Scorpio moon. Because I feel like Scorpio moons, they just don't like to leave the house, or they just don't like to really kind of show themselves. So I feel like I'm kind of like the Scorpio moon spokesperson. But but I don't know. I don't think I've ever really been friends with anyone that has a Scorpio rising or a Scorpio moon. They're all just hiding. They're all just hiding.
I find that now that you mention that, most of the people that I know who have Scorpio moons have a very social sun sign. So, like, one of my friends who's a Scorpio moon is a Libra. Another one of my friends who's a Scorpio moon is a Leo. Another one of my friends who is a Scorpio moon is a Sag. So I feel like those ones are out in the world more. But I feel like if you're like somebody who has an earth sun or a water sun and a Scorpio moon, you're the ones that are like hermit crabbing it and not wanting to be perceived at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. 100%. 100%. But I feel like, yeah, I feel like with Scorpio risings, especially because they do have that Pluto influence, and this is something that I can talk about for a long time. It's just, I feel like that Pluto energy, it creates a lot of power dynamics in Scorpio risings lives, where it's just like, I feel like Scorpio risings have to be very cautious of who they let into their lives, because they are more susceptible to dealing with evil eye and toxicity and negative energy and jealousy and envy. Like, it's a really, really big thing for, Scorpio risings to deal with people's shadow selves being projected onto them. It's like, I feel like Scorpio risings are the kinds of people where it's like, they'll deal with like the shadow side of a person that everyone thinks is innocent. So when they talk about, oh yeah, like that person's actually like really strange, like, sometimes Scorpio risings deal with being gaslit, because they'll be like, oh yeah, well, what do you mean? Like, that person is acting shady. Like, that person is so nice. But it's like Scorpio risings see the shadow self of a lot of people that is otherwise hidden from the world, But there's a lot of power that Scorpio risings are blessed with, so.
People who have Sag risings. This one's interesting. I always find the mutable risings to be the most interesting. I have a friend who's a Sag rising, and she's a Virgo, and she has her sun and in her 10th house, and it's so interesting to see, like, Sag risings, they want to travel and expand. We always talk about Sagittarius, and I always say, like, Sagittarius is a sign, yes, it's a fire sign that wants to be like impulsive, live life to the fullest, experience freedom in all veins, but they're such an intellectual sign as well. And it's kind of like you're dealing with a fire sign and air sign in one, right? Like, and we always talk about expanding their consciousness and wanting to experience new things, especially when it pertains to their own, like, philosophical outlook and spirituality. And it's interesting to me, because I feel like Sagittarius is a sign where the ascendant is being mutable, and it being the last mutable sign in the birth chart. The way that I experience Sagittarius rising people is so different from person to person, more so. Like, I really cannot find a common thread between the Sag rising people that I know. Because, one, them being mutable, I'm sure a lot of planetary energies are being expressed at the same time. But also, they're so hard to pin down. They're very elusive to me. Like, and they're the kind of people where I feel like I never truly know them fully.
That's so interesting too, because it's like, I don't know, like, because they're just so social and outgoing, and they just have like this joy for life. So it's just so contradicting for someone to just be so out there and then just be like, oh, actually, I know nothing about you, Yeah,
I feel like with Sagittarius risings, I feel like they can sometimes be hard to pin down, because they just naturally have very adventurous spirits. They're like wanderers, they're natural explorers, they want to explore things. whether it's through traveling, watching documentaries, taking classes. Like, you never know what they're up to because they're just always on the move. And they do it in a way that's not very, like, it's not very predictable. Like, they're not gonna just, like, be the kinds of people that are gonna be like, hey, so, like, I'm gonna be doing da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and, like, announce it to everyone. Like, they're just gonna do it, and then you'll see it. Like, I feel like, compared to the other fire signs, I feel like Sagittarius risings are a bit more chill, in the sense where it's like, they do have that fiery essence, but it's not as obvious, you know? Like, you kind of have to keep up with them in order to see it, in order to, like, witness it. You know, but I will say, though, like, I feel like having a Sagittarius rising, you know, it's definitely, like, as I was saying in a video that I posted, like, a couple days ago, I feel like Sagittarius risings have aura privilege, where it's like they're always just attracting, like, lucky things or positive things or good things just because of their energy. You know, it's like that Jupiter energy that's blessing them and protecting them and helping them to grow, you know, in easier ways. I feel like they definitely do have an advantage. And I think having a Sagittarius rising is definitely a reflection of being blessed with good karma, you know? But aside from that, though, I feel like they're very optimistic people, very positive. And I think that's why also it can sometimes be hard to kind of figure out, like, what's really going on in their lives, because they're not gonna be, like, worrying about the adversities or the challenges that they're going through. Like, they're going to be aware of it. They're going to be honest, because honesty is connected and associated with Jupiter, which is their chart ruler. But I feel like when it comes to, you know, Sagittarius risings, you'll never really know what's really going on in their life, like, on the more challenging aspects of it, because they're not going to be worrying about it. They're going to be like, yeah, I mean, like, this is happening, but I'm going to be staying positive. I'm going to keep on focused on, like, what I want to do and what makes me happy, and let me talk about that instead. You know, so I think that's a reason why there's kind of, like, a bit of mysteriousness to Sagittarius risings, is because they're always on the move. They typically always kind of have, like, a happy-go-lucky type of attitude. So it's like, if they are dealing with something, you'll never know about it, because like, you'll never be able to sense it. I also feel like Sagittarius risings are really great teachers. They have a lot of wisdom. They tend to be very spiritual, philosophical people. Also, like, really great with, like, knowing a lot of, like, information because of how wise they are naturally. And I feel like they always know a lot about different cultures or spiritual practices, religions, like, all sorts of stuff. Like, I feel like they're very, you know, the go-to people for learning about cultural knowledge. And yeah, they're very, very intelligent people and very wise beyond their years. I like Sagittarius risings. They're cool people.
They are.
Truth and expansion is their ultimate goal in this lifetime. So always trying to achieve a higher perspective, and they're very open-minded, and they're all about, you know, trying to gain as much wisdom and spiritual knowledge. So maybe that could also be a contributing reason as to why it's so hard to sometimes understand them, because they're just growing mentally. They're always gaining all this knowledge to become more wiser, and they move fast, so it's kind of hard to keep up with them.
True, they're evolving, you know, through all of their experiences are shaping the way that they're going to react and move into the next thing. And they kind of, like, they do things without fanfare, and I think that's also a big part of why they're so unpredictable, is because, like Maryaam said again, they're not going to tell you they're going to do something. They're just going to do it, and then you're going to find out about it and be like, oh, okay.
You really can't keep up with them. So just like we were talking about our Virgo risings, guys, check in with your Sag rising friends, because they're probably going through it and they're not going to tell you.
No.
So just check in with them. Make sure they're doing okay. They're not going to make any rational decisions.
But by the time you notice or you ask them, they're going to be like, oh yeah, girl, I was dealing with XYZ like 2 months ago, but it's fine now.
Yeah.
We're moving into Capricorn.
My rising sign. Hello, Capricorn risings and people that have heavy Saturn energy. I feel like this is the kind of rising sign that, first of all, old soul energy. If you're born with a Capricorn rising, even Aquarius rising, you have an old soul. You have been here many times, and you probably already feel it. You just subconsciously know it. I feel like Capricorn risings are, especially people that have Saturn in their first house or Saturn as their chart ruler, have a very grounding energy. I feel like with Capricorn rising, Saturn in the first house people, Saturn ruled people, I feel like they have like a grounded energy to them. You know, I feel like Capricorn risings, Saturn ruled people are very good with handling stress, very good at handling crisis moments. I feel like they're the kinds of people that you need to go to when you're going through a difficult time in their life. Like, they will help you to get through it. I feel like naturally Capricorn risings and Saturn ruled people, very consistent, very reliable people, very tenacious. Like, they have considerable levels of willpower. Like, these are the kinds of people that when they put their mind to something, they will not stop until they get it. Like, they would rather, like, failure in their mind does not exist. It doesn't exist. Like, when they want something, they'll stop at nothing to get it. And the idea of them not accomplishing something, like, terrifies them. So I feel like with Capricorn risings and Saturn ruled people, like, you know, status, ambitiousness, discipline, and tenacity is a large part of, like, their core essence. But I also feel like Capricorn risings are softies, though. Because I feel like, again, like, Saturn, from a technical perspective, has dignity in Cancer. So Saturn is in detriment in Cancer. So I feel like Saturnians, they do have a soft side, but they almost kind of feel guilty for it when they tap into it, or they almost kind of feel ashamed of it. Because also, when you think about it, Saturn is connected with the emotion of shame or guilt, right? So I feel like Saturn rule people, Capricorn risings, they do have a soft side, but, like, connecting with it feels uncomfortable for them. But they do have it. I also feel like Capricorn risings and Saturn rule people age very well. They age slowly. They even typically age backwards too, which is really, really cool to see. And I feel like they do also have an energy about them that's very, like, magnetic, because everyone always puts them in charge to do things. You know, like, Saturn, Capricorn is the ruling energy of the 10th house. So, you know, I feel like Capricorn risings, Saturn ruled people, they do find themselves being in the spotlight because people put them in charge to be the leader or to be the boss or to be the manager. Like, they naturally have these managerial leadership qualities about them that helps them to rise to the top. But I also feel like Capricorn risings and Saturn in the first house people also, again, like, kind of similar to Virgo risings, need to make sure that they have a life outside of, like, work and business and, like, trying to be perfect. There's a lot of pressure that Capricorn risings put on themselves. And I think because of that, they need to make sure that they have an outlet. But otherwise, though, I think, you know, Capricorn risings and Saturn ruled people are really cool. Not to be biased or anything, but I'm just saying, you know?
No, absolutely. Cap risings or this Capricorn energy, they work hard, but they also party really hard. Like, when they do, sometimes they go off from what I've seen. And with Cap rising or 10th house energy, right? I think of themes or the house of self, but, like, in a different way, right? So if you have your chart rule in the 10th house, this is the house of your public self and your public image. So Cap risings, they want recognition for all the hard work that they do. It's not just career wise, it can also be how they show up for people in their lives, how they take care of their family, their partner, how they're taking care of the housework. Like you said, they are leaders and they kind of give off that CEO, a big boss energy, because their professional career is so integrated into their identity and their personality. They're very ambitious, they are success oriented, and can be very organized and detail oriented people. And they want people around them to notice that and to see that, right? They want their success to kind of be known and define themselves. I think sometimes that can feel like that's their purpose. And they are very private people because they only want you to see their success. That is the public image that they want you to see. And like you were saying as well, responsibility and seriousness are kind of themes that they can see throughout their life because of Saturn. They place high expectation on themselves, and I generally think it probably has a huge influence from one of their parents, whether it's positive or negative. It kind of creates this drive and this ambition for them to be somebody in this world, and that kind of starts from a very young age. They kind of learn that from a parent.
They're mini grown-ups.
They are. They end up being really mature and have from a very young age. But like you said, they age backwards. So, you know, guys, it's only going to get better. You're only going to get younger from here.
No, it's true. Like Saturn does kind of put that burden on you, but that's one of the good things about the learning the lessons earlier in life is that it gets easier and you can enjoy the fruits of all of your labor and lessons as you age versus the other way around. You know, you don't have to get hit with the harsh truth of reality in life in your Saturn return because you've been having a Saturn return basically your whole life.
That's literally what I say. You know, I mean, like that's I have so much respect for Saturn. I have so much love for Saturn. But you know, I mean, if you're a Saturn ruled person, I mean, you've been dealing with Saturn's energy for your entire life. You know, so
Hey everyone, we had just experienced some mild technical difficulties, but we're back, and we are going to be chatting a bit more about Saturn. We were talking about people with Capricorn risings and, you know, how basically early life can be a bit tricky, but you guys tend to reap all of the benefits of adulthood once we get to the adulting stage. So it's not all.
Yeah, exactly. There's hope for us.
always, always.
You have Saturn in your first house too, no?
Third.
Oh, it's the third house. Okay, got it, got it.
Nice. So we both have Saturn in the third house. That's fun.
Yes, I have Saturn. I have Saturn in my first house, and
Mine is the 12th.
shit hits hard, like for sure. Definitely.
I have Saturn conjunct my moon in the 12th. And honestly, I feel like it's not the worst. I think my Saturn likes being in there. Yeah. I mean, my moon doesn't. I was like, we have to find the positives. So I was like, I don't think my moon loves being in the 12th house, but it's an Aquarius moon, so I don't think the moon loves being in Aquarius anyway.
Yeah.
So it might as well be in the 12th house. Honestly.
Planetary joy.
Exactly. I think that's like my favorite placement. And actually, I don't mind having an Aries Venus either, even though it's in detriment.
Oh, really? Yeah.
At least your Saturn is in its own sign and getting planetary joy, so it's okay.
Exactly. I think that's like my favorite placement. And actually, I don't mind having an Aries Venus either, even though it's in detriment. Exactly. I think that's like my favorite placement. And actually, I don't mind having an Aries Venus either, even though it's in detriment.
What's your favorite placement?
I've seen a lot of successful people with that placement.
Venus in Aries?
Yep. A lot of self-made millionaires, a lot of successful business owners, you know. We can always talk about that a bit more in depth, but, you know, I've noticed that whenever people that have their Venus in detriment or fall, they tend to, you know, have more access to wealth. Because when a planet is in detriment or in fall, it's basically like given more earthly pleasures. Versus when a planet is exalted, it has more spiritual honor. So it's like, there's definitely pros and cons to it. But again, like if you look at the birth charts of a lot of billionaires or a lot of like very wealthy people, you'll notice that they either tend to have like their Venus in detriment or in fall, or their Jupiter in fall or detriment. You know. Yeah, you'll notice that.
My Jupiter is also in detriment. But yeah, my Venus is in the second house, so I do think that I do gain a lot from it, on a more material plane. But I think it also just makes me very strong in my convictions. Like, my values are very important to me, and I'm not afraid to speak up for them. Probably not in the most, because I also have Mercury in Aries, so I'm very like direct in communication, so probably not in the most diplomatic way, but I go hard for things I'm passionate about, so that's why I enjoy that placement, even if it's not the most fruitful romantically.
Oh. I have Venus and Pisces in the second house, and I actually like that placement in my birth chart.
That's a cute, exalted little Venus.
Yeah, I really like.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Thank you. Thanks.
That's amazing. Congrats. An exalted Venus. You should do some money meditations. That'd be amazing if you're looking to get some boost your financial wealth, that Venus placement will do you well.
Yes, I do need that because eclipse came for me like pretty hard. So that is something that I will be doing. Absolutely. What's do you have a placement in your birth chart that you like you absolutely love and you're like so happy with?
Yeah, I love my Jupiter in the first house. I love my Venus in the seventh house. Um, yeah.
You have Venus in the 7th. I love that for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I have a Cancer Venus. So the only time that I ever feel, and this is kind of funny, but the only time I ever feel like I feel rested or I feel like I can give myself permission to like take breaks from things is like when I'm like in a relationship or I'm like dating someone, and like I feel like that's a time when I can actually just kind of have time to just like decompress. I've noticed that quite a bit. So which is cute. And then I also like the fact that I have my moon in the 10th house and Mercury in the 5th house. I think that's really fun. I feel like that's why I feel like I don't know, I feel like I'm just typically a pretty open-minded person, and I feel like I have a very playful way of speaking and communicating. So, yeah, there are a few placements in my chart that I'm, really happy with, that I like. And then also I have a Mars and North Node conjunction. So I feel like that also is a reason why like I'm just like always on the go. I feel like I have like a very intense battery pack like on my shoulders, like figuratively. And I feel like my Mars is just like just telling me just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. So I feel like I think that placement has given me a lot of perseverance to get through, certain things in my life. So yeah, what about you? What are your favorite placements in your charts?
You having your planet of action with your node is so emblematic of what you're doing. Just like constantly working towards what you're passionate about and what gives you purpose. That's awesome. Yeah, like I said, I like my Venus in Aries. I like having my Venus in the 2nd house. I also have my Sun in the 2nd house, and like my little Taurus sun in the 2nd house. She loves it there. I was like, I love.
Oh, perfect.
Again, Taurus loves the tangible, tactile things. I do, like Nicole said, I love warm slippers and a nice warm blanket and a hot mug of tea. And I really do enjoy being around stuff.
Yeah.
I love stuff. I am a total maximalist. Like this whole like minimalist aesthetic phase that has been the in thing over the past couple of years is so depressing to me. When I was looking for an apartment, that was the saddest thing. I was like, everything is so white and gray. So my thing is like, I like having a lot of things everywhere. It's like I need to have like tons of throw pillows and like cushy little ottoman seats and like a very soft couch and velvety textures to things around me. Like I'm one of those people who's just like, I need to change my towels all the time and my bed sheets, and I love to do seasonal things. In the summer I love to have in the winter I love to have flannel sheets, and in the summer I love to have linen sheets, and like little things like that as part of my everyday are things that I really enjoy. So I think, yeah, like even though the sun is really like my only personal earth placement, I do really enjoy what having my sun in the 2nd house does. Like that extra little bit of like finding luxury in small, like little comfortable things is really important to me. And like cultivating that as a part of my everyday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget that I have Sun in the 2nd house too. I have my Venus and my Sun both in the 2nd house. I do like my Venus. I have Jupiter in the 7th house, and so I feel like I really need to
That's wonderful.
learn how to tap into that energy a little bit more. I don't know why, Jupiter is just something that like I always overlook in my birth chart, and I always like forget about it.
What is your Jupiter in Virgo as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you already got like your Jupiter and Virgo in the 7th house gifted you your lovely Virgo boyfriend.
Yeah, there's that. So yeah, that that I think is a good placement that I probably need to tap into more. But like honestly, so boring. Like I love my Venus in Pisces. Like
We're on Aquarius. Funny story. Before my mother finally told me, allegedly, my proper birth time, I thought I was an Aquarius Venus. I mean, Aquarius rising.
Aquarius rising for most of your life.
Yes, for most of my life. This is what I identified with. I'm like, like I'm such a Uranian person. I have so many Saturnian themes in my life. And then casually it was just like, yeah, because I was born at 1:30 or whatever. And my mom's like, no, you weren't. Who told you that? I was like, what do you mean? Who told me that?
Yeah. Where would I have gotten it?
Where would I have gotten this information, Mother? She's like, I don't know. You were there when you were born, weren't you? So I hold this dear to my heart, even though I'm not an Aquarius rising. Honestly, who knows?
Yeah.
At this point, I don't trust my mother anymore.
Oh no.
Well, you'll have an Aquarius rising in your sidereal chart.
Yes.
Because you're a 13-degree Pisces rising, right? So yeah, so you'll have an Aquarius rising in your sidereal chart. So you're still Aquarian.
I am.
Yeah.
But anyway, people with Aquarian risings, it's really funny that they are very sociable, and they make friends easily, and they fit in very easily with a lot of people. They tend to be drawn more to people who are outcasts and kind of fringe groups and align themselves with that sort of energy. But it's really funny that people talk about Aquarian energy and how it can kind of go anywhere. And again, I find that this is a theme with people who are fixed signs, where your fixed nature kind of keeps you in a place where you feel comfortable and are not very susceptible to change, but they tend to thrive with change. And they also tend to be catalysts to change a lot of the times. And I find that Aquarius is definitely that sign where, they're pushing change forward for a collective, because they're very concerned with the collective. But at the same time, astrologers talk about Aquarius as a very solitary sign. So even when they are in a crowd and they're kind of blending in and fitting in, they always feel isolated a lot of the times, which I think is very interesting considering the themes of Aquarius.
I think the thing with Aquarius risings and Uranus in the first house people, Uranus ruled people, is that the reason why there's like an association of isolation with them is sorry, my mic. I think the reason why there's like a theme of like isolation for them is because they stand out. They stand out a lot, right? They're not like they're not like the typical person. They usually go against the grain. They're very rebellious. They're the kinds of people that doesn't want to follow societal's rules and what is planned out for them. Like they want to set their own path. They want to set their own tone, right? So that in of itself is a very isolating path. Like even think about it. That's why entrepreneurship is associated with Uranus and Aquarius energy, because you're going against the grain. You're doing things differently than what society expects you or tells you to do. Socially speaking, societally speaking, you're often encouraged to go to school, get a 9-to-5 job, and then settle down, have a family, whatever it is, right? Which is fine. It works for people. But Aquarius risings, Uranus in the first house people, Uranus ruled people, typically want to kind of set their own path and usually end up doing things that are not societally accepted in certain ways. So even, for example, with business owners, there's typically so much pushback, flack, doubts that's sown into the minds of people that want to have an untraditional type of job or career or business, right? But they'll do it anyways. And so sometimes that journey of doing those things is isolating. But the cool thing about, Aquarius and Uranus energy is that it still rules over the collective. So, through going on your own path and your own solitary journey, you are also typically more likely to find people that resonate with what you're doing. So you might, again, like as you said, you might also find yourself connecting with people that also feel like outcasts or also feel like their own path was different than the average person. So you tend to find your own unique tribe, having an Aquarius rising, Uranus in the first house, or being a Uranus ruled person.
It makes sense because it also embodies that rebellious energy. So it's very like Aquarian as a sign and Uranian energy, very contrarian. So because you are kind of headstrong and willful, you want to think outside the box and look at things from a perspective that goes against the status quo. But on the other hand, you still are an air sign, and we know that air signs are sociable, maybe not in the same ways. Gemini, for example, is social through communication, and Libra is social through like socializing and using charm to their benefit. And Aquarius does, I think, more so than people think. They're very empathetic, but they tend to identify, because they feel like outsiders, they tend to identify more with people who are downtrodden or misunderstood. And that is where their sympathy and their empathy is the most resonant, versus Pisces, where they just feel bad for everybody. Yeah. No matter what. It's more like because they see themselves as somebody that is a little different, they will tend to identify and sympathize and eventually kind of befriend somebody who is, again, on the fringe, doing their own thing, and that is the energy that they embody. But because we know that Aquarius, the 11th house, deals with the collective, and it deals with groups and community in a broader sense than the third house, for example. People who have Aquarius energy and planets in Aquarius in their chart tend to make a really big impact in the world doing whatever they do. A lot of people who have had very innovative achievements across any industry have Aquarius placements a lot of the times. Like, we know that Steve Jobs is an Aquarius sun, Oprah's an Aquarius sun, and I think it's conjunct her Venus in Aquarius as well, So a lot of people who embody Aquarian energy to the max, I would say, are looked at as trailblazers because they did do something that put them outside the box and was innovative, and it kind of changed the face of something. It's a very revolutionary energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Aquarius energy is very unique. It's very special. It's innovative. I feel like Aquarius risings also tend to have more likelihood. Aquarius risings, Uranus in the first house, Uranus rule people, tend to have more of an opportunity to become very influential for society, like through their own innovation, their own uniqueness, their own, geniusness. And I feel like they're meant to be the people that change the world for the better, or, really have an impact on the communities that they're a part of. So it's a really, really incredible energy to have. I will say though, like, on the challenging aspects of it, sometimes Aquarius risings do sometimes struggle with like feeling, secure sometimes, because they do feel, different than the average person. But I think that when they really embrace their uniqueness and embrace their eccentricities, I think that's when they really find their power. So, and they also make great friends, really great friends, because friendship is connected with that too, right? Friendship is connected with the 11th house, Uranus energy. So they make incredible friends.
They do. The 11th house, yeah.
Even though they're known as being very cold, like, Aquarius energy is always known as people who are like a little standoffish, a little bit cold. But I'm like, I think they make great friends. And like, again, there's about the collective. So it's so...
judge. Yeah. Like, they may not always have the most, comforting presence, but they don't judge you.
They're accepting.
They're accepting, and they're good listeners. So, what they lack in warmth, they make up for, and just being present I know a lot of people love to joke about, you know, the friend that won't text you back, and my sister is an Aquarius stellium, and one of her friends was telling me, she's like, you know, since Maina went back to school, she doesn't really respond to my text messages. I was like, if it makes you feel any better, she doesn't respond to me either.
Did it make her feel
and
better?
I'm her sister. So I'm like, if I message my sister, I know not to be offended if she doesn't get back to me until the next day, or if she just doesn't get back to me at all and doesn't speak to me until she starts a new conversation. And I've just learned to deal with it. Because I know she doesn't mean anything by it. Sometimes she just doesn't want to talk.
Yeah, that's fair too. They set those boundaries.
So yeah, I think if you can get over feeling a little bit neglected by an Aquarius rising or someone who has prominent Aquarian or Uranian energy, they're very, very valuable people.
Yeah,
I think, and it's worth kind of like getting your feelings hurt sometimes to be in their life.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
But not least,
you're right.
The tipsy Pisces sign. So we kind of touched on Pisces rising earlier in the episode because, of course, typical me had to be like, we're going to talk about what I want first. So we spoke about Pisces risings. It's a mutable rising. You know, Pisces has the reputation in the zodiac of being very dreamy, being very spiritual, and very empathetic, which I hate.
Why?
Because, girl, people's energies are exhausting.
Yeah, and you feel like you take them on a little bit.
Yes, like I fully, you know, absorb the melancholy.
Yeah.
If that's what, but it's great because when the vibes are good, things are great, and it's very intoxicating, and it feels great to be in good energy. Yeah. But when they're not good, it's such a downer, and it's so hard to regulate that.
Yeah. I
find, for me anyway. But people with Pisces risings, people are very drawn to your energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they
can trauma dumping on you.
That's true. They can sense.
Sorry.
They can sense the empathy. They're like, this person will feel sorry for me and will make me feel better about myself. And I do struggle with that. Maryaam's like, I have things to say. Take it away, girl. I know Pisces energy is very inviting, but I feel like it could be very difficult for the native to kind of regulate. Discernment is very important here, and the more I learned about my chart ruler and looking at it from the perspective, because I do have my Neptune in the 11th house in Capricorn. So my Neptune is conjunct my Uranus. And both in the 11th house, they're both in Capricorn. So when I was reading about that, it's like, okay, what are the lessons that Pisces rising has to embody when their Neptune is at Capricorn? And Capricorn being Saturn ruled, the lesson here is definitely boundaries and being strict with your boundaries and imposing your boundaries and upholding your boundaries, because like you said, Maryaam, people will try to take advantage. And it's like, it doesn't mean that they're approaching you with negative intent, but I feel like people just have a tendency to be line steppers in general, and like they know who to try and not to try. Mm-hmm. So if you feel like somebody that they could try it with, they're just gonna keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So it's up to you to be very stern and kind of have the courage also, because the thing about Pisces energy is because you're so empathetic, you don't want to hurt people's feelings, because then you feel bad. And I feel like I talk about this all the time, and I tell Nicole all the time, a lot of the times I'll do things that I don't want to do, not because I'm trying to be nice necessarily or not hurt somebody's feelings, but because I don't want to deal with feeling bad about saying no or not showing up for somebody, or, you know, just, I know I'll feel guilty. And I hate that. It's not even about them. It's just like, I have to live with myself. And if I tell you something that you don't want to hear, that I have to deal with me, like, forget your feelings. Like, yeah, I'll feel bad that you feel bad, but I'll mostly feel bad that I feel bad now.
Yeah, it's, wow. Okay, first of all, if you're a Pisces rising, Neptune ruled person, Neptune in the first house, you have to. And I feel like this is even more so than Scorpio risings. You have to energetically protect yourself, because you are even more of an energetic sponge than Cancer risings. Because with Pisces risings, you're ruled by Neptune, which is a generational planet. So when you think about what a generational planet is, it's basically a planet that affects everybody, right? And so because of that, you're more directly connected to the collective. And now because Neptune is such a watery planet, it's so connected with our deep subconscious feelings and emotions, you have to be very cautious of people, as you said, trauma dumping, not knowing when to stop, not knowing to respect your boundaries, because Neptune is the planet of boundlessness, or like a lack of boundaries. So it's like with Pisces risings, like you guys are just like so on the money about just like people just like projecting all of their energies onto Pisces risings. You gotta deal with people's projections all the time. And you also have to watch out for energy vampires too, because when you have a Pisces rising, you're naturally a very empathetic, compassionate, selfless person. You want to give. You want to give and give and give and give, but it's like some people will try to take advantage of that. So you also have to make sure, like as a Pisces rising, that you're not afraid to set those boundaries and tell people no sometimes. Oh my gosh. You know, I feel like Pisces risings need to paint, make music, meditate, go out to the beach, do some yoga, you know, 100%, you know. Go to an aquarium, you know, spend some time with some aquatic animals, you know, watch films, do some photography, you know, because Neptune also rules over that too. Just have a fun form of escapism, and just make sure you're just taking those naps, you know, those healing naps.
Okay. You guys, Maryaam solved the caper of how to heal the Pisces rising. It's like, and stop hanging out with your shady friends, okay? Like, when somebody's a downer, either communicate and tell them that they're a downer in a nice way, or try to distance yourself, because it's a lot.
Yes.
There's nothing worse than like being in a great mood and being in a positive headspace and taking care of yourself, and then spending time with somebody who kind of slowly depletes you of that.
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries again. Okay. Yes, we have come to the end of our episode, you guys. We hope you all learned a lot about your rising signs and have a better understanding of how to not only interpret the energy of the rising sign through the chart ruler, but also how to express that and use that energy to your benefit by looking at the house that your chart ruler is in, and the planet, and how the planet interacts with other planets in your birth chart. Okay, like this is all like a precursor to what astrology can be, because the more that I learn about astrology, the more I realize how vast it is and just how many layers there are. It's so fun. You can do it with your own birth chart, because, you know, that's what's most personal to you and what is the most relevant. But like we did today, taking a peek at celeb charts and kind of exploring what you know of them through that is also a lot of fun. That's how I learn a lot of things, because, you know, even though I'll read stuff about my birth chart, I'll still be kind of in denial about things. So if I can look at it and assess things through another person's chart, it gives me a better understanding of how these energies work, I find.
Yeah, and again, remember, the ascendant is not just your mask. It really is a part of who you, yeah, your core being and who you are. And there may be some people who are into astrology, but they feel like, again, they're not really fully resonating, or they feel like they don't embody what their sun sign is. And sometimes all you have to know is what your ascendant is, and you're like, okay, it clicks. Like, I get this now.
I 100% agree.
We really wanted to thank Maryaam as well. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Saturday morning. And
thank you for having me.
Talking to all of the Wine Astrology listeners, like, we've literally, since you confirmed, we both have been so excited for this episode, counting down the weeks. So it's so good to finally get to kind of meet you and chat with you. It's been a pleasure having you on. Your content is great. I feel like I'm gonna keep gushing, so I just want you to kind of take the reins now, Maryaam, and just let us know, let the Wine Astrology listeners know. We'll obviously link your socials and everything else in our show notes and through Instagram and everything. But where can we find you on the internet?
Everywhere.
That's true. She's everywhere.
I post all the time. Yeah, but no, I'm kidding, but actually not really kidding. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Threads. I feel like there's another one. Okay, so TikTok, Instagram.
Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter, of course. Threads, Facebook. Yeah, just literally all of them. Just ShawtyAstrology is me. So you can find me on just like all the main platforms. So yeah, that's where you'll find me.
Guys, make sure you check her out, because again, she's super fun and warm and charming and just has really great informative videos and content about astrology. So if you're an astrology beginner, or if you just want to support an astrobaddie, like, make sure you check her out and give her a follow, because you will really definitely like her content.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite things about Maryaam's content is how relatable and palatable you make everything. You're a great communicator. Everything's so simple and easy to follow. Even if you are a super astro noob and all you know is what your sun sign is, and maybe like what a cusp sign is, because people for some reason know a lot about that too. The way that Maryaam explains things is so digestible and easy to understand, which is why, like, if you're somebody who's a little bit more advanced and are trying to sharpen your knowledge on astrology, or if you're somebody who's just getting into it, her content is great to follow. So we will link everything in our show notes. You know, every single piece and active account that Maryaam has on social media will be linked.
It will be there.
So that you guys can go follow and learn more. And for us, you know where to find us. We are at Wine Astrology on Instagram. You can also find us on TikTok. It is at Wine Astrology Pod. Both will be linked in our show notes as well. You know what to do. 5-star reviews on your podcast platform of choice. We are everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, CastBox, Pod FM, Podchaser, literally everywhere, guys. Just look us up. And we have a new logo. So please drop us a like on Instagram, because we just launched our new logo last week. It was our first week with our new logo artwork. We're obsessed with it. Thank you again, Kaylee of the Pulp Girls, for designing the Wine Astrology logo. She's beautiful. She's everything that we could have ever imagined her to be. So, new iteration of Wine Astrology. We hope you guys are enjoying this season, and we can't wait for next week when we'll have another amazing guest and chat wine and astrology once more.
Thank you.
Exactly, Maryaam. Again, thank you so much for being on the show with us. It was amazing meeting you and having your energy on the show. And I can't wait for our listeners to discover you. And with that being said, guys, stay tipsy.
Stay tipsy.